Welcome to It Depends, a live show where we discuss everything you need to know about software development and technology in business. I'm Natasha, your host, and joining me today is our COO, Bill, a solutions architect at Atmosoft, CJ, and Brandon. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
Hey, Natasha, how you doing?
Good. How about you? Okay, so today we will be doing some role playing in the process of estimating a project. The project we will be building today is an extended warranty vehicle registration form. So whenever you guys are ready, we can just jump right into that.
All right,
Oh,
CJ, you want to go ahead and list out what we want to do?
yeah, absolutely. So we've only got 5 requirements for this. The first requirement is going to be VIN decoding, just a population fields on the form. Uh, we also need to have a selection form for which individual warranty. We also need to include a date of purchase, the warranty holder information, and some form options such as term, appearance, windshield as an example, things like that.
Can you give me the fourth one again, CJ?
Yes, ma'am. That's the warranty holder information. Um, Personal details, address, phone numbers, email, things like that.
You can keep talking as I'm writing. I'm just getting all this stuff down.
Okay. Um, I mean, honestly, there isn't really much else. It's a relatively simple form with just these 5 simple requirements. Um,
Yep,
Right.
yep. That sounds term, appearance or windshield. Yeah, you got it.
yeah.
That's kind of what we're mocking out today.
Yep.
So I don't know. So I think right now I think we can move into uh kind of the decomposition, Tasha. I know before we were talking about possibly doing a mock-up, but I just realized that kind of does not necessary because we just kind of need to do the decomposition phase. So
Okay.
when we're doing task decomposition, obviously all the tasks are based off of the requirements, right? And then we're gonna take each one of the requirements and then we're gonna break them down into individual tasks that are actually units of work that we can do to complete a given task. So we can consider the whole registration form a user story, right? We need a user registration form for the site. And then obviously we've laid out the requirements of what we want to do. So let's go ahead and start talking about tasking. So Brandon, do you have any ideas on where you want to start on tasking?
Well, I personally do I either do the hardest one first or the easiest one
Yeah.
first. Is how I usually
Yes,
start.
I think that was
So
what I was thinking about. Sorry, let me be more specific. Why don't you go ahead and let's do VIN decoding first because that one is
okay,
actually going to be the one of the ones that's more challenging, right? And
yes.
uh, okay, so what do we need to do VIN decoding?
Well, we either need a database of VINs or access to an API of a company that decodes them.
Right? So I would put that as I would put this so one thing you could do here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, but like you could do a research spike. Actually, I really don't think database access is going to work because our data is just going to basically get instantly stale. So we need to research VIN decoding APIs and find out how much they cost and figure out which ones that we want to use.
Okay.
So that'll be task one. Will be find a VIN decoding API within our price range because this is going to cost. There's no way to do this without cost. The government provides some VIN decoding capabilities, but they have massive limits on how many times you can use it in a given time period, and they have and they're not always up to date. So you really, if you're doing anything with VIN decoding, you really want to kind of look at a third party provider whose primary function is doing VIN decoding. You'll get additional vehicle details that way back via the API call, and you're more likely to be up to date. what I've seen with most of the ones offered by the government service providers is basically they'll be 6 months, 7 months behind. So you'll go to decode. Right now, we're probably in 2024. Cars are out now, so you'll go to decode to 2024, and it just won't return anything because they don't have that VIN in their system yet. So yeah, for anybody who's interested, I'll throw it out there. Data One is a provider I've used in the past that works well, and they offer multiple options for you to get the VIN, where you can actually do the database by basically having them FTP you a flat file every day with all the VINs, and then you could just parse that out and then put that in your database, and then you don't have that API call. The VIN files are usually updated nightly. Yeah, I think they're updated nightly. But the API is going to give you more current access, but depending on your tolerance for not being able to decode a VIN, which at this point, if you're doing a warranty registration form, you want to focus on the fact that the customer's sitting down at the dealer management system and they're about to buy your vehicle. You want to sell the warranty right then. You don't want to have the problem where they're about to purchase extended warranty and then they can't because, the 2024 Kia, whatever is not available. So we got that. And okay, and then all right, so that covers the first requirement. So you know what? So for VIN decoding, what other work items would we need to do there? So let's assume
The UI elements.
Yep. And what kind of UI elements do we want to cap, or what kind of? This isn't a capture.
We would want the text input box, and then either a button, or we can automatically decode it once they have input the VIN and it's registered as a valid VIN. We validated that it's a valid VIN.
Sure. Okay, so I hear you talking there, and we have an error case there where what if we don't get back any information on the VIN? So we need a UI to handle the error case.
Well, yeah, we do. I was also saying in the case that it's not, because like VINs have specific specifications for how they're made. Like I think it has to be 17 characters long.
Yep.
So anything outside of that is automatically not a valid VIN unless it's
unless we're doing
stuff
want
for
to include validation. Yep. And then interestingly enough, the way a VIN works is the first, and I always get this wrong because some of the code is in C#, other code is in VB, and VB starts counting at 1 and C# starts counting at 0. So I might get this wrong, but it's basically the first 0 to 8 digits, skip 1, take the 10th and the 11th digit, and that makes up what's called a VIN pattern. And then that's what's used to decode it. The rest of the information on that VIN is basically the car's social security number. And this only works on automobiles, and I think motorbikes are under this requirement, but RVs, boats, and everything else, all their VINs are not regulate, or not that these are exactly regulated, but they appear to be. But they could just be in any format. So if you're ever working with RVs and boats and 4-wheelers, the VIN numbers are just all over the map. Yep. Yep. All right. Well, what else? So that's the VIN decoding. So, did we decide? Do we want to do a button, or they just type it in when they go to the next field? We just auto decode. Then how are we going to display the results?
If we did the auto?
No. Either way, like are we going to have
separate? We could have a separate UI element that has like make, model, and stuff, and all that's all populated from the decoding.
Yep, and not editable, by the way, because we don't want them. Because anytime we decode a VIN using like the Data One API, let's just say we do a 2024 Toyota Camry, we always want that text to be exactly the same. And so if we decode the VIN every time and we don't allow them to manually input that in, we can kind of guarantee that at least make, model, and year we're getting correctly, and they're getting stored correctly in the database. Yep. So okay, so let's wrap up VIN decoding. So that's VIN decoding. Do we want to do? Let's do some timing on this. Okay, so Natasha, on the UI, we're gonna have a text box with let's just assume we're gonna have a button. We'll just do it like how we've done in the past, where we have a decode button, and then we're going to display year, make, and model on the screen. What is your or actually, how do we, let's do two things. Let's have Tasha estimate, and then the rest of us can kind of jump in, and if we have, well, I don't know. Okay, on estimating, what I'm trying to show here is the difference between group and individual estimating. I think you get better estimates as a group, but so what I'm thinking right now is actually let's do this. Let's have everyone. Does everyone where CJ, Brandon, Tasha, you guys all know the Fibonacci sequence?
I know what it is.
So
yeah, I know exactly what it is.
We do this 0 and 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. And so that's what we're measuring here is a complexity with kind of a scale up like that. So
exponential.
Yeah. So the UI and wiring up to that particular API provider. How complex do you think it is? Or actually, CJ, why don't you run this part? Sorry.
It's okay, man.
You're
It's
operating right. Scrum Master, so let's
hey, brother. You what it is you work with the team you got, not the one you think you have, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a developer that is extremely experienced, you just get out of his way.
Yeah. Yep.
However, okay. So absolutely. Okay. So how long, in a measure of complexity on the Fibonacci scale, I would like each one of you to write down how complex you think that VIN decoding task is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. No, I'm gonna make this number big.
Okay. Cool. And
all right.
We're gonna start with Brandon. Brandon, how complex do you think it is?
On the Fibonacci sequence?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like 5. Okay, I said 5.
Okay. And I'm given to understand you have experience in doing this. So,
yeah, it also depends on how fancy, I guess, we want the UI elements to be.
Okay.
If we want them to be super basic, it's a lot easier. If we want them to be like more stylized, it gets more complicated.
Okay.
But now could also be a separate step here too.
Yeah, that's true.
We could do this, and then we could have maybe in a future sprint where we're going to go back and kind of restyle everything and kind of brand it up and stuff like that. So I would say I wouldn't include style in. I did not include style in my.
I didn't either. I was just saying.
So who's next?
I'm going to say, Bill, you're next.
I also have 5.
You also have 5. Okay.
Also have 5.
Because you're the most experienced at the table, can you explain why you listed that as a 5 as opposed to higher or lower?
Yeah, so the reason why I picked a 5 here was because it's basically getting the elements on the page, and then which is just going to be some simple HTML, and then positioning your elements, and then also some JavaScript to call the API, which isn't complicated. I've worked with this API in the past. I know it's easy to use, so that's why I went with the 5. Just 1 on prior experience. 2, it's just the API call in JavaScript, and then you're going to populate some elements, and then you have an event you're going to respond to on the button, and then some elements on the page. That's why I picked 5.
Okay. And
it's not like super easy because you got some JavaScript in there, but it's also not like, I'm not rewriting a binary search tree.
Right. How about you, Natasha?
I also said 5.
Okay. And I'm sorry to throw you after Bill because you know he's going to hit almost every point possible.
Yeah.
But is there any reason that you thought of that wasn't listed previously? Or you just
I just felt like it was a 5 because I felt like it would have some complexity with the fact that we're taking someone else's API and integrating it into our thing. But then also it's already something that's made, so then it's not super complex because it's not like we have to make the API, is what my thought process was.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. And honestly, I kind of like the way that worked with you folks. Building out the requirement and then doing estimation right at the end before moving on. I think that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, that was good.
Okay, so it seems as though we've kind of nailed down that requirement in its entirety. Do you guys want to move on to a separate requirement, or did you guys want to expound at all?
No, I think that's good. I mean, you have you have the but we didn't put this on here that, you know, obviously if you're working in production, you'd be saving it and there'd be some complexities about here. But right now we're just talking in general. So we'll skip that complexity level of detail. I think we should move on.
Okay.
The selection.
Yeah.
Okay, selection of warranty. All righty, Natasha, how do you think you're going to attack that requirement?
Selection of warranty?
Yes, ma'am.
I think what I would do for selection of warranty is you're going to want to have 3 input boxes that are not editable, because those are going to come from decoding the VIN, and then that's pretty much all we'll need for the selection.
No, so Tasha,
I'm on the wrong step.
Yeah.
Selection of warranty is going to be a drop down where we're going to have all the different types of warranties that they'll select.
The vehicle qualifies for.
Yeah, that the vehicle qualifies for.
Yep.
I was on the wrong step. Sorry.
You're okay. So I agree. From a UI perspective, we're looking at a most likely a drop-down box. And then from the back-end perspective, there's going to be an API call to get the list of warranties that the vehicle qualifies for, so you can display it on the form. And yeah, so there is an API call here to get the list of vehicles that qualify on the form. And this is going to be our API. This is not an external API. And so that adds complexity on the back end side. And so yeah. And so now, Brandon, you got anything you could think of?
Nope, that was it. I was going to say a drop-down box that calls an API to get the list to populate itself.
Okay.
Based on what the vehicle is.
All right, so let's do our complexity estimates. Let's see. So API. You know, there's some free setup stuff. All right, I'm not gonna worry about that. So let's just assume that we
there would be extra setup stuff because we need like a database.
Yeah, because we gotta you gotta be able to, because some warranties based on their legalese are not qualified.
Yeah, you have to be able to process which warranty is valid for which vehicle. And
we don't want to sell a windshield warranty for a Bugatti. I'm sure those things are not cheap. So yeah. So,
I hope there's a warranty for that. I'm not paying for that glass. My God.
Yeah, I know, right? All right. I got my estimate. I'll go last this time.
Okay. Well, we're going to go in reverse order from my eyeball. So we're going to start with you, Miss Natasha.
Okay, so I said 13 for mine.
Okay. 13 for you.
Yeah, and the reasoning for that in my mind was because of the fact that we have to have our own API to be linked into it, and we'll probably have to do a lot more error handling, making sure it's bringing up the correct vehicles that are with that warranty. So that's why I chose 13.
Okay. And Brandon?
So I said 8.
Okay. 8. All right. Yeah. Any particular reason we settled on 8?
I chose 8 because it's definitely complex. We're going to have to write more, like she said, error handling and processing of data. But assuming we already have the database, it shouldn't be, I don't think, for me anyway, too hard, like in my opinion.
I would imagine our customer would be providing that database, correct?
I would assume, yeah, that's what I would assume.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's going to be business specific. So what they do in the background is they have they have one of their teams that's involved in the insurance, and they're running constant constant analysis on the parts of the warranties that are insured to make sure that they're making a profit on the warranties, and so they'll determine the cost and price and what vehicles qualify for what vehicles, or they're working with a 3-star rated or AIG or some big huge certified insurance company gives them a AAA rating, and they're backing the warranty, and then they'll provide you with the actuarial the charts that basically tell you, which vehicles qualify. We're not going to sell, windshield for Bugatti, but you can buy the, the leather treatment chemical that we produce for Bugatti. That's fine. We'll replace the leather seats, but we're not going to touch the windshield or the tires, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I picked a 3 because in my head I assumed that we were already set up, and we were just basically going to have to do the API and just displaying that data. So the API would basically pass me a VIN. I'm going to do the decode. I'm going to check I'm going to run get all my logic on the table, and I'm going to return you a list of warranties that this vehicle qualifies for, which overall, if all the back end stuff was already set up and you already provided that, then it would just be a straight call and then displaying it on the page. So that's why I picked 3. However, I think other team members made differing assumptions on actually, like, we would have to fully implement the API and not have something that was already there. And given that case, I would probably go with a 5, only because the API call is pretty straightforward to get that list, and the logic has been already laid out. So now me and Tasha have an argument. So how do we handle this,
No,
Charles?
you don't.
Yeah, you do.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree. You don't have an argument.
Okay.
Natasha's complexity is based on her thought process and how she's going to approach that problem. Initially in the conversation, she didn't list any assumptions right. She just she did assume that she was essentially building this by wholesale from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's
come up to an 8.
In my opinion, even if you guys even if you folks had the exact same understanding of the exact same functions that needed to be built out, it still wouldn't be an argument. I disagree at all. Maybe perhaps for Natasha, that would be a bit more complicated, just of how she works, things she's good at, things she's not good at. But you've done it so many times, you could do it in 4 seconds.
Yeah. That was the other thing on the 5 too. I was like, yeah, I've got this one.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we roll right into taxing, to be honest with you, I'm probably going to guess that you're just going to take that one.
Me?
Yeah. If you're on that dev team, you're probably just going to snatch up that task.
Yeah. This one definitely has some complexity to it. I could definitely come up to an 8. I don't think it's as hard as the 13, but I think in Tasha's, she would have to, if she was doing the whole thing, she would have to look up a bunch of stuff on the wiring.
Yeah.
And performing in the database. Whereas I think Brandon and I selling on 8. So how do we resolve the final number then? Or what's the technique for resolving the final number?
I don't believe you need to finalize that number. I don't think that's necessary. All we are going to use those numbers for is just to assign tasking. It's the easy way to break up who's good at what. That's all it's for.
Okay. I was thinking too, like on the way I did it in one of my teams on the past was if there was a large gap in the disagreement, you had a discussion, which we did, and we all resolved our differences. Like, I understand where Tasha's coming from. She's understanding where I'm coming from as far as, my initial pick of 5 was or 3 was basically because I was just assuming we were just going to, had to throw up an API and then pass data back. So I think we got that resolved. So I think we got a clear picture. I feel like we kind of settle on an 8 here if we had to pick like one number, but I mean, I agree with you. You made a good point there about not having to kind of settle down there. This is a fairly complicated task. But I think it could definitely be done in a sprint, given, let's just say, our sprint size is a week or 2. I think it could definitely be done in one sprint. Typically, the way I've worked in the past, any number above 8 means that we didn't decompose it enough. And so when Tasha gave the 13 number, what that has meant to me in the past is this task is is super complicated, and we probably didn't decompose it down enough.
Okay.
So typically you want to try to any given task you want to try to be able to fit into one sprint, or that's not a have to, because you can obviously carry stuff over, but typically you want to try to task stuff down to where it's in bite-sized chunks so you could take care of whatever. So maybe this one gets, because it's so complex, maybe this one gets broken out into a UI step and a back end step. And the UI step we do in this sprint, just get the form and the drop down there, get the call to the API. We mock the API so that's just returning some dummy data. And then maybe in the next sprint we would go in and flush out that back end work with a little more decomposition, so we could get slightly better handle on it. Because I think there are two pieces here.
We'd have a lot better idea of what decision we wanted to make in that situation during an actual contract phase, because we would understand what our iteration pacing looked like.
Yeah. 110%.
Also, I will say this, that having a large disparity in numbers could also indicate, and Natasha, this is a purely hypothetical, so please, I'm not trying to call you out, but it could also indicate maybe a knowledge gap, right?
Sure.
Maybe one developer is very proficient at one thing, and on our team, the other developer isn't. Could be that we put the two of them on that same task if the contract pacing workflow allows, and the team wants to do it, to help to kind of cross-train, to increase our utilitarianism.
Yeah.
Odd way to say that, but yeah.
I would agree. I think also the reason part of mine was so high is because I'm usually put on the UX UI end of things. So I'm not the one working with APIs usually. So I'm not experienced in doing anything with the APIs really.
So if you were to take the task, it would be its level of complexity for you would be at 13, because there would be a learning curve, there would be research, and then there would be, probably Visual Studio pair programming that would be going along with this to kind of get you up to speed on how to do that on the back end. That's a good point.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Is that all for the selection?
Yeah. We can call that one done.
Right. Our next is the data purchase.
All right. Okay. So data purchase is essentially just putting it on the screen and collecting it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just be a UI element?
Yeah. Just the UI element. Yeah.
Unless we want to go into
is the UI element. Okay, so here you can have the discussion of see what Tasha drew there was a calendar down control, which is different. Are we going to try or buy or find some other calendar control? We're going to build our own calendar control.
Yeah,
I think in this case there's probably a free calendar control we could get, which is
there is with Bootstrap, or you could also, with our company, we have access to Telerik, and they have a pretty good one as well. So
yeah. So, but within the next question is do we allow freehand, or do they have to select the calendar, or can you just type in a date?
I like my favorite implementation of the calendar control is where you can type in a date and then it'll pull it up on the calendar to verify that that's a date.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's what I like too. I don't like it when I'm forced to use a calendar control, but I feel like if it's something that, especially when the calendar control updates with what day it is, and so you're entering something today and you don't want to go entering the date if it automatically fills it in like that.
Have to default. Is that what you're saying? It should default to today? Okay. Yeah. And if the business requirement changes, we can always, fix that. But yeah, if we default it to today, that's good, because maybe people are at the end of the workday at 4 going in and entering all the warranties or registering them for the day. Yeah. Okay, so we'll use a calendar control. We're gonna take advantage of one of the existing ones out there, either Bootstrap or one of those. So we're not gonna roll our own calendar control, which, by the way, for audience involved, I would never recommend that anyway. I've tried to write these on my own way back in the day, and my gosh, it's so nice to just have people that were nice enough to do it for you, because there's so much complexity in even a calendar control or the Windows clock. I mean, it's crazy, all the complexity that goes into some of that stuff. Okay, so we have a display box. It's gonna be a drop down. We need to add testing onto our list of requirements, but we don't need to worry about that right now. So okay, all right. I have my number.
I have mine as well.
Me too.
Okay. So we're going to change things up. On the count of 3, everybody say their number. 1, 2, 3.
3.
2.
I could come down to a 2.
Oh,
2.
snap.
I agree with 2.
Okay. 2 on the Fibonacci sequence. Got it.
Yeah.
Winning. All right. So fairly simple, straightforward, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I don't think we can beat that horse any more
Nope.
dead. Okay. So do you guys want to move on to warranty holder information or form options?
I do have a question. So we are at half an hour. Do we want to continue, or do we want to do a part 3 tomorrow and finish this up? I'm okay continuing or doing a part 3. I just want to appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah.
I'll be honest and say I would much prefer a part 3 tomorrow because I am hungry.
Yeah.
That is
okay.
fair. Well, let's call for today, and tomorrow we will finish up our project plan, and then we'll take our complexity estimates, and then we'll I really don't want to turn them into numbers, but I think we should at least try to estimate numbers. Like I like the complexity for me personally. In closing, the complexity to me, I know that the first thing a project manager or even a scrum master can try to do is they're going to try to turn that 5 into number of hours, right? First of all, I think that's kind of a mistake. I think you can get your velocity, but I think converting it into hours, I just don't. I've seen it work. I've seen it not work, and so. But we'll try to put some hour estimates on these numbers as well, and kind of see where we get to on those tomorrow, and then we'll finish up on the warranty holder, which is the person or customer's details, and then the form options, and we'll talk through those tomorrow, and then I think that's a great idea. Oh, right. I'm sorry, DJ, you're available tomorrow?
Yeah, I can be around tomorrow. Yeah, as long as it's the same time.
Yeah, same time every day. We try to same time every day. Yeah.
All right. One thing about the hour estimation, real fast, just because it's incredibly related, is that I find I prefer to go with each individual who is accomplishing the work instead of trying to make some estimation based on a complexity number, because just because it's complex doesn't mean it's not fast. Just because something's simple doesn't mean it doesn't take an incredible amount of time.
Yeah, a lot of code. Yeah, that's a good.
I much prefer to deal in realistic timetables. And to be honest with you, each individual, whether it be a developer, a trade technician, some young kid scanning your groceries at the grocery store, it's going to be their responsibility to figure out how long it takes them to do things. And to be realistic about that. That's a skill you're going to need to have anyway in any workplace. So let's develop it. If we're poor about estimating our times, let's work on it, but let's use real time. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So we'll continue with the complexity, and then we'll come back and we'll assign our estimates. As we've been, Tasha and I, the discussion we had yesterday was basically around is like I'm either, depending on the project, I'm either doing really well or I'm just drastically off, either on the bottom or upside. There doesn't seem to be kind of a pattern there. So we were kind of trying to come up with helpful ways to do time estimation, and the task decomposition while we were researching it was just the one that just came up. Like it was the top thing, like just break it down. So, and I think the complexity number works as a first run through, because on the selection of warranties, we had that 13, and that kind of helped us realize, like, hey, maybe there's two pieces to this, right? There's the UI piece of it, and then there's the API piece, and maybe it needs to be broken down into 2 tasks and scheduled that way. So that one was good. So, all right, I'm done.
Okay, cool. Anything else anyone else wants to say before I close it out? Okay, fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining us, and everyone who participated in the audience. We appreciate you. That's it from us today, and join us next time as we explore more tech topics on It Depends. And remember, stay curious and stay integrated. If you want to see the ending of this, we will be live tomorrow at the same time at 3 p.m. So make sure to catch that.
Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah, Mountain Standard Time. I always forget to say the times.
Yeah.